I really can't believe it, but we are now 2 weeks through the debut of the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm your tour guide, Bubba O'Neil. Folks, one of the slogans for sports in this area for me is, if you can make it in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, you can make it anywhere. And it's those teams, executives, athletes, and broadcasters who will be front and foremost on the Sportsline Podcast. Now, when I think about today's guest, the thoughts of local hockey royalty comes to mind. Look at this list of accomplishments, from a playing career that was cut short to injury, to his transition as an official. Afterwards, Don Robertson separated himself from the crowd with sharp ownership, promotion, and management when it pertains to senior AAA hockey. In addition to national, provincial, and league success, Don is a member of the Ontario Hockey Association's Gold Stick Order of Merit for outstanding service to the game. Mr. Robertson, because I will call you Mr. Thanks for joining us here on the Sportsline Podcast.
You're welcome, Mr. O'Neil. I'm grateful to be here.
I think one of the people, or at least when people talk to me about local hockey in our area, and which has been, is so successful over the years, sometimes senior AAA hockey kind of gets forgotten. So when I'm doing sports here at CHCH sometimes, and I bring up the likes of the Dundas Real McCoys, I do get people saying, what is senior AAA hockey to you?
Senior AAA hockey is the highest level of amateur hockey in Canada. Mm-hmm. It's been considered that way since 1891, and it continues to be that way. It's a mixture of former juniors, former professional athletes, NCAA, CIS. Our team last year that won the Allan Cup, we had Chris Campoli, over 300 games in the NHL, Darren Haydar in the American Hockey League Hall of Fame, and a number of former amateur pro players from the Dundas area and the greater Hamilton area that come together and we compete. And we compete for the world's oldest national hockey championship. And that's what it is. It's such a high level. And people that come absolutely love it. And the problem is we don't have the marketing dollars to do what the Hamilton Bulldogs do, and because it's not a business. Mm-hmm. I mean, we run it like a business. We do the promotions like a business. We don't have full-time staff. We have the best and the biggest army of volunteers in the league, and they take great pride in what we do. Mm-hmm. The game night experience is fun, whether it's 50-50 draw, whether it's going up to Sean and Ed's bar and having a beer and watching the game. I mean, we do the whole package. But, it ebbs and flows. COVID took a whack at us a little bit.
Sure, as everyone.
Yep, and we're fighting back. Mm-hmm. And, we've got a team in Wentworth, across the road from here, playing out of Harry Howell Arena, mm-hmm. and Stony Creek, and the Tigers, who just were the Hamilton Steelhawks Steelers, moved back to Stony Creek, where they had the Generals, who won an Allan Cup, mm-hmm. and the Brampton Buccaneers. So we've got some expansion plans. We'd like to get into the Peninsula. We'd like to go back into the Cambridge area. We'd like to have 6 to 8 teams. Mm-hmm. But, we play an abbreviated schedule because the athletes now are all in their 20s or 30s. So they're married. Lots of them have kids. Mm-hmm. They have full-time jobs. So it's not like junior kids who practice at 4 o'clock, can't wait to play a 60-game schedule. Mm-hmm. We have to accommodate to get that level of athlete. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. And it's the best amateur hockey in Canada.
And you can boast a little bit. You can stick your chest out a little bit because of this wonderful trophy that we have sitting in front of us, because the team that you own, the Dundas Real McCoys, have been around forever. They are the current national champions. And that's got to feel real good to have that in your possession.
Yeah, we're not giving it back. Going to keep it. You called me, and I realized we had the Allan Cup in the office, and I think, well, it'd be kind of cool. So this trophy was first given out in 1908.
Wow.
And when I say it's the world's oldest hockey championship, it started being competed for in 1891. Mm-hmm. They competed for the Stanley Cup. And some of the various teams, Montreal Wranglers, the Ottawa Cliffsides, they come from across Canada. It's a Challenge Cup. Mm-hmm. But they were starting to pay some guys. Now, I can't imagine in 1893 or 1906 what a guy was getting, but mm-hmm. maybe he's getting $100 a year to play. And then they said, it's getting too professional. You want to run a pro league? Run a pro league. And they booted a bunch of their teams out. And the team said, well, we're taking the Stanley Cup with us. All right, so that goes. The championship remains the same. And so now they need a new hockey championship to be played for the best team in the Commonwealth. Lord Gray said, I'm going to make up a cup for it. Sir Montague Allen out of Montreal, who was an industrialist, said, well, I've already got one. The question is whether or not he actually had one or not. So he put that forward. So in 1908, the amateur hockey in Canada started competing for the Allan Cup. Lord Gray had to settle with a league that you're in love with. It's called the CFL.
Okay.
He's a little more famous now because of it.
Right.
But back in the day, this would have been a more prestigious championship, likely, because hockey's our game, right?
But the amazing thing is this trophy still sits here today and is still coveted by so many hockey players and teams and coaches and executives and owners like yourself. And, this is your third as an owner, I believe?
Coach, manager, owner, yeah.
Right.
We won 3 of them.
So two with Dundas?
Yep, 1 with the Brantford Mott's Clamatos. Now, that's a great story.
Yeah.
So the Flamborough Mott's Clamatos played out of the Beverly Community Center, and the building wasn't big enough. We started getting some pretty decent profile players. We had Bobby Hull's 2 sons, Blake and Junior, Bobby Jr., Rocky Saganuk, Stan Jonathan, Ronnie Settlebauer.
Stan Jonathan.
Yeah, Stan could go. And so we started accumulating former NHL players. And we had a whole bunch of them. And everybody would bug me, how do you get them? And what's the secret to getting them? And assuming we were paying them, and we weren't, we pay them mileage, still do today. We don't pay our athletes, we pay them mileage. And I wouldn't tell them. But the simple fact was, we just asked them. Donnie Edwards got let go by the Toronto Maple Leafs. He'd won an Ontario championship in Caledonia, his hometown with the Corvairs. I called him up and said, what are your plans? I got his number, of course. And he said, well, I'm going to wait and see who picks me up. He'd won a Vezina like 4 years before that in Buffalo.
You're the Sabres, yeah.
And I convinced him he'd be better off playing at our level because it's the best amateur you can play rather than pick up hockey on a Tuesday afternoon to stay ready. He won an Allan Cup with us, was voted MVP of the Allan Cup in 1987 with the Mott's Clamatos. And 6 weeks later, signed with the Oilers. Wow. So there used to be a lot of that. I mean, that 87 team had 11 former NHLers on it. So that kind of comes back and forth. You don't get as many, Bubba, NHL guys anymore because they make so damn much money. Most of them don't even come home, and most of them want to live where it's warm. Right. So the access to them isn't as great. But the real key for Wentworth, Stony Creek, Dundas, the local teams here, is get guys that still want to play. Right. Guys that still have the itch. Our guys coming off and walking up to our dressing room in Dundas, there's always kids there fist pumping them, and after the game they'll give some autographs out. So we really do kind of dress it up so that the players get the feel
that
of pro
feel, yeah,
and playing in front of lots of people, and it's outstanding hockey.
You've been involved in this in so long now, and again as an owner as well too. What keeps you going? Why do you keep you could have retired from this. You've got your own. I know you're into real estate, that kind of thing. You could have walked away from this and said, you know what, I had a real good hockey career. Why do you stay involved in this?
Insanity. You know what? There's been a couple times when I thought, this is a lot. But when you see the fans that come, and you see the community work that the Dundas Real McCoys and our group do, like we do fundraisers and awareness nights for CIBC breast cancer research, Margaret's Place, local hockey teams. Used to do teddy bear toss before they put all the netting up, and ML's Christmas Tree of Hope, and with you guys with the teddy bear toss in the past. When you see all the community work that we do and all the good that comes from it, I am, and my wife is a great partner in this now. Suze helps me an awful lot. I do it because I'm a selfish guy. I do it because when we do all these things and our group do all these things, it makes me feel good. And that's the selfish part of it. And that's the truth. I can't flower it up. It makes your heart feel good when you have something that can bring awareness to something and help them raise money and be a part of your community And when you host a national championship and you can get thousands of people to come to the community of Dundas and the Hamilton area, there's something wrong with you. It doesn't make you feel good. But it's lots of hours, but it's a hobby, right? I mean, I'm busy, I own ComChoice Real Estate in Dundas. It's the oldest real estate firm in Dundas. We have a great group there. I sell a lot of farms. I sell a lot of commercial industrial. I sell a lot of residential stuff. But this is a hobby. I mean, I used to golf more, but I'm so bad at golfing now. This is a better hobby. So it doesn't interfere with the real estate work, but it's a community involvement. And again, it's just being selfish. It just makes you feel good to do good things.
Well, I'm going to tell you on behalf of the entire community, thank you for your selfishness, because I know the benefit that your league does for so many people in this area and the joy that it gives. And as you said, even extending that to the charitable issue of what you're doing as well, too. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be thanking you right now for your selfishness.
Well, we're going to keep doing it.
Well, that's the best part of all.
And, we're in the final throws. The Allan Cup, again, means a lot to me. Its significance in the greater hockey picture now has struggled, and it's been kind of ignored, and we're fixing that. We have a group we have a committee now from Newfoundland to Alberta. BC is going to get looped into it. We're going to try and bring the Allan Cup back up to national prominence where it should be, because it's the oldest in the world. And so we're working slowly at getting that better and making it more important and making it more relevant. It's going to take a little bit of time. We hosted the Allan Cup last year on 6 weeks' notice, and we're in the final throes of sorting out to do it again this year back in Dundas. It's not confirmed, but we're working at it. And then we will have a template that can be launched in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, Innisfail, Alberta, Powell River, British Columbia, and we're just putting the finishing touches on how do we do corporate sponsorship. So, but that's a bigger team effort. But somebody had to do it last year, and it was great. We didn't have enough time to promote it. We didn't have enough dollars to promote it the way I would have liked to seen it promoted. So it was a bit of an expensive proposition to do it, but we did it. And then we happened to win the Allan Cup, and we have the privilege now of buying a whole bunch of championship rings, which are on their way. So that's what you call the crisis of success.
and that's okay. And you're right. It does get a little bit of national attention. Whoa, everything's okay?
Anyway, pedals?
Someone with his hat,
the ghost.
Got the ghost of Dick. But yeah, seeing that championship game on national TV, I mean, that was a wonderful thing that we see, and that's like the growth of the game. I know that this is not only just a part of what you do. I know you love hockey. You are a hockey lover. And it goes back, and I don't think you would be doing this if you didn't love hockey. Nope. Big announcement today, actually. Big announcement today that there's going to be, and I think Mr. Bettman's going to speak in a couple hours about a possible 4-country competition. I guess Canada, United States, I guess Sweden, Finland. We still don't even know about best on world on world competition. You think this is good for hockey?
Whenever you can't figure out why somebody's doing something in the sports business, Bubba, they're doing it for the money and the best interest of the game. So if they can grow the game worldwide, it'll be more profitable. I mean, make no mistake, NFL, NBA, it's all big business. The National Hockey League, through Gary Bettman, have become very relevant. I mean, they are across the U.S. Does it make any sense to have a team in the NHL playing in a 4,000-seat building in Phoenix? They don't make a lot of mistakes. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But if they can do that and have that survive, and if they want to grow the game in Europe, I think the fans will like it. I think they kind of tried it, and it didn't work as well as they wanted.
I didn't like the World Cup.
Yeah, and this is probably lipstick on a World Cup pig that they're trying to address. But they're pretty good at what they do now. Right. So will it grow the game? It might grow the game. Playing games in regular season games in Europe. I mean, the NFL do it. I mean, they're trying to grow the game. I mean, if that's an announcement, make no mistake, they will have studied this enough to know if it's viable and if it's sellable. So give them the benefit of the doubt. we'll have to wait and see.
If it's a precursor to getting the National Hockey League back involved with the Olympics, I'm all for it. And I love the hardworking guys that put on the maple leaf for those couple of Olympics that, that a lot of people didn't know. And some people said, it's not the NHL guys, I'm not going to watch. I appreciated that. But I think once they committed to having guys in the National Hockey League play for the Olympics and play for their countries, I think people got spoiled. And I think we got to get those guys back involved in the game here, because not having Connor McDavid represent the country for Canada bugs me.
Connor McDavid hasn't played in an Olympics. That's frightening. I mean, he's 28 years old. Pardon me, he has not played in the Olympics yet. And I get it if they're on the other side of the world and you have to stop the league. But to me, that's marketing. And as Canadians, bless the guys that go and put the uniforms on. Probably a bunch of former National Hockey League players, all outstanding hockey players, but they're not our best. It's not Connor McDavid against Austin Matthews.
No, it's not.
You just want to see the best we've got against the very best. And, boy, we all know how good that hockey is. I mean, it is outstanding, and that's a great marketing tool for them. But the NHL are tough. I mean, they only go on their own terms. And sometimes guys like me and you don't like their terms. We're saying, who gives a damn about the terms? Go do it. And hopefully they start doing it more than less.
Well, and you're right, because you talk about the Connor McDavid aspect of it. What on earth does it do for USA Hockey for Austin Matthews to throw on that jersey? We kind of forget that because he's a Maple Leaf, that he's playing for Team USA, and what a plus that would be for Team USA.
Well,
and American hockey.
Yeah, and building those teams is different. You don't take your top 12 skilled players. You take your top 6 or your top 9. And when you're only looking at, for Canada, the very elite 6, if you're going to do it the way I would do it, and I just read Brian Burke's book again, and I didn't know we had that much of a similarity, but you want your top 6 to be very skilled. And your third line can be really skilled and do checking, and your fourth line, you want to be a little heavier. That means your top 12 skilled guys don't go, because that doesn't mean that just because you're really skilled and offensive, you can check your hat. So it is quite a blend, but it creates so much interest. And it lets guys like, I'm going to date myself here, like Ron Ellis playing for the 72 team, when Henderson scored those big goals for us. I mean, he was offensive, but he was great defensively, and he was put on that team.
Right.
And if you look at how we build the teams, that's how they're done. You need guys that can shut down the top 6 from the U.S., right? You can't have all guys doing toe drags. You got to have somebody that will try and get in Austin Matthews' way and try and piss him off so he's not going to score 4 goals a game. Right. And those generally aren't your offensive guys. That's not Sidney Crosby.
That's why Bergeron was so good.
That's right. And remember Claude Lemieux, who went from team to team to team?
Yes.
What a pain to play against. And he was at best average during the regular season, but he was a rock star in the playoffs. And that's what you need for the Olympics. And I hope we get back there, because it'll be fun. You're right. The American side of the game has grown so much.
Huge.
And I still believe, as I think many do, a lot of it goes back to the Gretzky trade. When Gretzky left Edmonton and went to L.A., think what you want of Bruce McNall, but he did a lot of good work for American hockey by bringing Wayne Gretzky to California and L.A. and making that a place to be.
Think about in the, I know there was the Kings at you imagine in the early 70s saying that there'll be 3 teams in California in the National Hockey League. That's crazy for me to think that adding the Ducks in San Jose. And you know what? And each one of them, I mean, Anaheim going to the Stanley Cup as well too a couple years back. Like, these teams have been successful, and the Kings obviously they've had some success as well too, winning a couple of cups.
Oh, I mean, well, Ducks won it.
Yeah, Ducks, yes, that's right.
Right,
that's right.
Ducks won it when Burke was there.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny. I used to do some things for the Oilers, and a friend of mine, Pat LaForge, was their president.
Yes.
So I went to Edmonton, and he says, we're going on the last leg, so we're going to go golfing in Palm Springs. And he says, do you want to go to a couple of games before we go? Sure. So I go to his place. Traveled with the Oilers, and boy, do those guys know how to travel on the jet. I was there, and their chairman was there. And I said, I'm going to get something at the coffee shop. He said, no, eat on the plane. I'm going to go. I mean, it's amazing how they give you knives and forks. I mean, the options for eating are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Laporte says to me, he says, everybody's, you're a Hamilton guy and you're annoyed Hamilton can't have an NHL team because Toronto and Buffalo are so close. Wait till we get there. So anyway, we go to L.A. Pat Quinn's last games he coached for them. Bless him, great Hamilton guy. So we play in L.A., and we stay at the JW Marriott. You see the hotels at these they're not no-tell motels. I mean,
first class.
5-star hotels. So we get on the media bus to go to Anaheim because we're playing the next day. Mm-hmm. So I said, what are you talking about? He said, you'll see. The ride from downtown L.A. to Anaheim was 35 minutes. Like, I had no idea, no perspective where Anaheim is. And right. To me, it's like Burlington, Hamilton. Everything's all mixed into one. I mean, it's 35 minutes away. Mm-hmm. He said, so they can have two teams in L.A., in essence, L.A., but you can't have two in Southern Ontario.
That makes sense.
Because there's not enough hockey.
Don't get me started.
Are you kidding me?
Don't get me started.
Wow. Anyways.
And now, okay, there's two things there I want to touch on. And we'll put that on pause for a second because I do want to talk about Hamilton and the National Hockey League. So let's leave that for a second here. God bless Mr. Balsillie. But you talk about this Team Canada team, and you've coached. You've been a general manager. You've been your owner. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. First of all, who's your head coach of Team Canada right now?
Oh, you won't like it. I'd bring Mark Crawford back. I think he's a genius.
Mark Crawford. Okay, wow. He's been an assistant for the last couple of ones, but wow. Okay, yep. So he's running the team. Who's in net?
Oh.
Funny because the best goaltender in the league right now is an American in Hellebuck.
I was going to say that has been one of our challenges for a long time. Like, Canada has never had 2 or 3 premier goaltenders, and to sort out who it should be.
Like a long time ago, I would have went with Price. I mean, he would have been the guy, I guess.
I think I'd bring Price back. No, but seriously, yeah. Van Beesbrook for the U.S. The U.S. always had better goaltending, seemingly than we did. I mean, we had Brodeur, we had Patrick Roy, we had some guys. We had Curtis Cujo.
Okay,
but he was like third in line.
Yeah.
Who's the kid that went to Vancouver? He played in Florida.
Luongo,
yeah.
Luongo, yeah. Like, you mean,
but off the top of my head, who's the best goalie from Canada?
I don't even know right now. Skinner for Edmonton, maybe. As you talk about Edmonton, not a lot of great. Maybe Joe Wall turns into something.
He's an American.
Oh, there you go.
So there's the challenge: is when it doesn't come like that. That's not good. Mm-hmm. It's not good. Like forwards defense, I mean, there's all kinds of forwards and defensemen we can pick and we can use, and we would be good at it. I mean,
first line.
Look at the Leafs. I mean, Marner's the only Canadian that would even be considered.
That's true.
You got Willie and Austin Matthews are one Swede and one American, and after that you're going, all right, for all the talent the Toronto Maple Leafs got, we got one Canadian forward. That's good enough. Now, Riley can play defense on that team.
Sure. It
But you start digging around, it's a little more challenging. Look at the leading scorers and look at the Canadians in it. Like, it can be our game, but we don't dominate that game anymore.
No, because I guess Kucherov is leading the way right now. McKinnon's been really good.
Yeah.
I mean, and at 36 years old, I don't know if a lot of people are talking about, I don't think he wins an MVP, but
Sid can play.
Sid can still play. And it's almost like he's trying to tell people, hey, I'm still here. I may not be the best in the world, but I'm in consideration.
Well, and he is gifted enough, and he has the hockey IQ enough that he can play on your third line on an Olympic team because he understands the game and he can be responsible enough defensively and chip in. He's the guy in the middle. He's probably not in your top 6 for elite goal scorers because that's what you're going to want out of them. But that third line I talked about that you want to be able to have a little bit of offense against their third line and do the job defensively. So you get a line with Crosby on it. You can put him out against anybody's best line. You can put him out against Austin Matthews. And if he knows his job is to make sure Austin Matthews never scores a goal.
He'd be a pain.
And you win, he understands the game because he's an elite athlete. He'll know better how Austin Matthews thinks. The problem with a lot of coaches is they get an elite goal scorer like Austin Matthews, or I don't know how you stop McDavid. He's just so fast. Well, so is Matthews. But unless you've got a guy that's been a goal scorer and is an elite athlete, they have a lot of trouble computing on what they're doing. You know, you'll have a defensive guy out there watching him, and then they do something going like, who thinks that way? Because they don't and never have. But Sid the Kid, he can do that because he's been an elite athlete, still is, but he can think of what Austin Matthews is going to do the same time Austin Matthews, not a split second later. So you really have to design your Olympic team, which is why Crawford has the experience. I like Mark Crawford a lot, obviously. But he would be smart enough to say, when we're putting this team together, the U.S. is a team we have to beat. Russia apparently is off the table for who knows how long.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So we're going to have to beat the Americans. We're going to have to beat the Swedes. So who do we need to stop their premier players? Because we already know who can score for us.
Right.
Who's going to win it for us? The third and fourth line are going to determine who wins the gold medal, in my mind.
It's funny. We think about coaches. My guy would probably be, and I like him because he's good with the media, and that's Paul Maurice. He'd be my guy. He's and look, he's had some success. Obviously, what he did with Florida was unbelievable last year, knocking off the Bruins, and when that ride all the way to the Cup. I like Paul, but yes, he probably because he's good with the media.
Well, but he's good with both. You know why he's good with the media? I think it's because he doesn't dance around the questions. He answers the questions.
He does answer the questions.
Like, I'm sure his GM's going, don't be talking about those injuries. But the point is, everybody knows anyways.
Yeah.
So if you ask him a question, he gives you the answer. And he's like Tortorella. If you ask him a dumb question, he's going to rip you one because it's a stupid question.
His patience level is crazy.
So I saw them helping Bubba O'Neil off the ice, and he clearly has a knee injury. What's wrong with him? Well, what do you mean what's wrong? You just said what you saw, right? He loses it. I like that stuff. But, Paul Maurice would certainly be, if you want, an in-game guy. But there are, you got to take a look at the guy in Edmonton, although he did coach in Erie, Connor McDavid, and he's bounced around. I don't know if he's ready for that yet. I see LA made a coaching change today, and they have a pretty good hockey team.
It's crazy. The coaches, like they're getting sacked. Like it used to be like big news when one or two got sacked a year. I mean, 5, 6 guys already this year. It's crazy. Well, no, it's not safe.
No, the jobs aren't that guaranteed anymore. At least they make a lot of money now.
They do.
So and they do recycle an awful lot of coaches. Which is crazy. Talking about a coach I want to see get an opportunity, and I don't think we're going to go there, but I'm going to bring it up, is Jay McKee coaching the Brantford Bulldogs.
Oh, it's going to happen.
He was assistant coach with the 2014 Allan Cup champions in Dundas. He was the player coach for us.
Played, yeah.
And morphed that into an assistant coaching job in Erie. And I think he was in Kitchener for a while, but he's shown he can teach kids. He's played at the elite level. He knows how to play dirty hockey, but he plays in the dirty areas.
Yep.
Right? He led the NHL in block shots for a number of years.
Block shotter. Oh, my God.
He first game he played for the Dundas Real McCoys, and he's not toe-dragging anybody. He's a very smart hockey player, but he's not, offensive. He doesn't want to be. He blocked more shots in the first period than the rest of the team did the whole night. And I said, what is wrong with you? He said, well, it's what I do. I said, well, senior, you do it in the playoffs. He said, well, all you got to do is get in the way. And so a guy that'll pay the price and has the hockey mind he does, he's doing so well in Brantford. And I think the guy that owns the Ottawa Senators is probably making note. So whether Steve Staios and Michael Andlar want to make that decision or not, but guys like that, young guys, you want to see them get a chance.
For sure. I would think both the 2 championship coaches for the Bulldogs that were under Staios and Andlauer and John Gruden, who's, I believe, an assistant coach there for the Bruins and the Islanders, those guys you trust, right?
Yes.
That's important, is it not?
Well, it is. And, Michael Andlar, they have a philosophy. and they have a philosophy that they want, because I talked to them about it. Their coaches and their GMs, that's why Steos is there. And he has a pretty good successful recipe at this stuff. But he wants a culture, and he wants the coaches to buy into it, and he wants the players to buy into it. And look at Lou Lamoriello. I mean, I can coach for Lou. You can't. You have a goatee.
Yep.
The goatee's got to go.
Yep.
I mean, Barry Trotz had to get rid of it. Pat Burns had to get rid of it. And nobody calls him on it.
Well, he's old school, and he's still there.
Yeah.
And he's already been in the Hall of Fame. He's already in the Hall of Fame, and he's still involved and still running teams.
Well, and, another guy, talk about old guys running teams. The only hockey school I ever went to was the Hamilton Red Wings down at the Forum. And my coach was Jimmy Rutherford.
Oh, my goodness.
And
wow.
Because he was the goalie with the Red Wings. And I see him out in Vancouver, and he's still got enough of a touch to make a difference. He did it, went to Pittsburgh and did it. Now he's in Vancouver, he's doing it. He did a pretty good job in Carolina, built that franchise up. But so he's got to be in his 70s.
I think so, easily.
Yeah.
And it's his turnaround. He said it was going to take a little while. And there was the people that don't follow the Canucks, and I do for some reason follow a lot of West Coast hockey. Man, the teams are really good, Winnipeg included. That they were Besser wanted to leave the team. Like this is a fractured team that he came into, and it's turned around in 1 year. They're leading the National Hockey League right now.
He said it's going to take some time, but he's smart enough. When you make that's a pretty ambiguous statement. This is going to take some time. I guess you only meant a few weeks, right? So you're kind of couching your position. It actually could mean 2 or 3 years, and he probably saw the potential. But that's great delivery, though, right? Under promise and over deliver.
Right.
He's probably looking at it saying, if we can get these 4 or 5 guys to do what they want to do and buy into what we're trying to do, and we augment that a little bit, we could be a lot better than a lot of people think, and they are.
They're real good.
And so is Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, real good.
Like Winnipeg weren't even filling the rink at the start of the year.
No, they were. That was the storyline.
Coming to Hamilton.
Okay, well now you drove me right there. 2 things I really want to talk to you about, and this is one. So we'll finish on 2 here. 1, Hamilton. Will it ever happen? Will the National Hockey League, and they're building this new palace downtown Hamilton that is, we thought was going to be kind of brought down into more that 8,000 to 10,000 range. It's a full rink again. And I know they're talking about having a lot of concerts and stuff like that. And you've got some pretty influential people that are involved in the project of changing Cops Coliseum, I'll call it Cops Coliseum, First Ontario Centre, whatever you want to call it, into a big-time rink. Will that be enough to attract the National Hockey League? And I believe there's business people in this area, maybe even you, that want to bring the National Hockey League to Hamilton. Can it happen?
It'll be a bigger challenge. It was probably a more reasonable proposition when, this is going to sound crazy, when you could buy a franchise for $350 or $400 million. Now your franchises are $1 billion Canadian.
$900 million for the Senators.
Yeah, so that's over $1 billion, right? When you do the exchange.
Right.
So how does that make the money work? It's still in my mind, and I read a study because I was part of a group, and they had a study done about the feasibility of a National Hockey League team, and season tickets. The average season ticket price was tested out at 75% of what the Leafs pay, and they passed that test. Where the season tickets were going to come from was astonishing to me. In Hamilton proper was 7%, the surrounding area down to some of the peninsula, but Kitchener, Waterloo, Woodstock, that corridor, Mississauga, Oakville, Guelph, and all that would do it. Would it be successful? It would then, but the challenge is Cops Coliseum. In the National Hockey League, and I know this, Bill Horn, who was the vice president of buildings, told Duncan Gillespie and I that when Duncan was running HECFI, because we went to New York City and had a meeting with him, because we wanted to know, what do we have to do to get an NHL team? We've got a building, and they said, "Yep, that's perfect. That will work. It's very temporary. You got to build a new one." That's when Pittsburgh, we're building theirs. You're going to spend $600 million putting a new building up. I said, that's not a problem. It wasn't a problem because it wasn't my money. but you didn't want to show any weakness, right? I mean, we haven't got the money. And Duncan said, well, Cops is built so that you can put a second mezzanine if that's a requirement, but it is a requirement. And Detroit was the only team in the National Hockey League that had one mezzanine. And what we were told was you have 17 minutes to serve 18,000 people a hot dog and a pop and a bag of popcorn. You can't do that on one mezzanine. So I haven't seen the plans for a revival, but if there's not two mezzanines there, financially it really hurts the program, and you can't make it sustainable because you got to be able to sell hats, you got to sell pucks, you got to sell popcorn. You know, you have to do all that in the business model to make it work. So I don't know, because I haven't looked at the design.
I would hope that was their thinking. Like,
if it's not, well, Tim Lewicki will know.
Yes.
Right? I mean, he just did it in Seattle. I mean, he was running the
Great
league.
point.
He knows what Hamilton needs. And if they're not building a second concourse, then that arena's goal is not to house an NHL team. But if you could get one here, that would be fine. Just have to build a new rink. You just got to find somewhere to build it. And if the appetite is there, then that'll be fine. I don't know who right now. I mean, there were some guys around. I mean, when this is for a book and a longer conversation, but if you remember the headlines one day, Thrasher's coming to Hamilton.
Yep.
And that deal was tentatively done. I haven't talked too much about this publicly. And there was an owner that was in place, and Jim Balsillie wanted to bring the Phoenix Coyotes here. Everybody got excited. That was a really sexy move. And if you saw Balsillie's documentary or movie or whatever it was,
Blackberry, I just finished. Yeah, I watched that.
It doesn't seem like the National Hockey League were all that favorable of him owning a franchise. So Atlanta goes to Winnipeg. Ghilardi buys the Dallas Stars, and here we sit. I mean, there was something there.
Clearly there was.
I don't know if there's something there at $1 billion. It'll support it, though. It'll support it.
I think so. I think it can happen, but yeah, you're right. Someone's got to pay the bills. One last thing here, and this dovetails off the Brian Burke theory that you talked about with building a hockey team. In the top six, bottom six. And when you say bottom six, it makes me think of grinders. It makes me think of guys that can go in the corners and check and win face-offs and do all the things that, some of your flash guys can't do.
Won't do.
Won't do. But within that element, especially when you go down to the fourth line, are guys that want to drop the gloves. And I know it happens in your league as well, too. It happens in all levels of hockey. What are your thoughts about the almost disappearance of fighting in hockey?
I like old school hockey. I think it was part of the entertainment package. I like the way it was played. Maybe not in the 70s. I was refereeing in the 70s where you had 2 or 3 bench clearing brawls on a big night. I mean, that was a little tiresome to try and handle, but I respect and appreciate the speed of the game. The skill level has never, ever been this high. But, there's guys take liberties, and they don't have to answer the bell. And look at the Leafs. They've got, who's their top guy? Ryan Reeves. I mean, I think there's a better chance you and I are getting in line-up than him now.
He just got in because of an injury, and he had sat for almost 2 months.
Yes. So now, will he be around the playoffs? Probably. Are you asking? So let me frame it this way. I really enjoy old-time hockey, and if somebody does something on towards and hits a guy from behind and drives him into the boards, I think that the guy that does that, if he knows there's consequences and not just a 5-minute penalty, he's likely not going to do that. And I think it may, in fact, make our game safer. But with no consequences of drilling a guy from behind or cross-checking a guy in the face, knowing you don't have to drop your gloves and answer the bell, I think it may, I'm not sure it makes our game safer. Anyway, I like old-time hockey. But Stan Jonathan, we won in 1987 Allan Cup. And Stan Jonathan never got in a fight. Was never in a fight.
Well, I remember. I mean,
I don't think anybody wanted to bother.
No, but I think the year the Bruins went to the Cup, actually, it must have actually didn't go to the Cup. It was the year they lost in the too many men on the ice game, and I think that team. If I got a little memory here still there, and this goes way back. I think that Don Cherry had 5 or 6 20-goal scorers on that team, and Stan Jonathan was one of them.
11 he had.
There you go.
11 20-goal scorers. Stan Jonathan had 27 that year. Had the highest shooting percentage in the NHL. I said to Stan, how'd you do that? And he says, I stood in front of the net. He said, half of them I didn't even shoot.
Doesn't matter.
I was just standing there.
Doesn't matter how they go in.
And that's how he made a living. He hit 27 that year.
You know, this has been a lot of fun. And I can't wait till you come back. And when you win this again, you can come back for sure.
I'm getting old, Bubba. We better put another condition on this. I think this is a great format. I think CH are doing a wonderful thing. Sportsline used to be in a different world and different network and everything else. That was a precursor to all the sports channels that are there now.
That's right.
And I think that your ability to do this and bring a local flavor to sports and be able to highlight whether it's the Dundas Real McCoys, the Wentworth Rip and Stony Creek Tigers, and the Hamilton Cardinals, and all the things and the great success and all the great athletes we've got in the Golden Horseshoe. You've been a big promoter, and people like me are very grateful, and we take notice of it. And I think this is a wonderful format, and I hope it's very successful, and it will give local teams and lots of people that deserve recognition an opportunity to chat with you. And I'm sure it's going to be a home run. Congratulations. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the fine words. And there are a lot of people that, you know, well before me that have represented and, you know, worked for CH and done exactly what you said. So I just want to be the continuance of it. And as we morph into different types of media as well, too, I think that's why we think this is important. Because off the top of what I said there, if you can make it in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, you really can make it anywhere in terms of sports.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's a wonderful hotbed, and I would really encourage people to take the time to go out and watch a MAC basketball game. You know, watch a Hamilton Cardinals game. I mean, you don't know. I mean, it's next to nothing. People are just trying to cover their expenses. Nobody's getting rich at these things, but they work hard and they make a contribution to the community. And I think sometimes that it should be enjoyed more. And if things like this make more people come and watch, that makes the world a better place, and it makes saltfish guys like me happy. Well,
you look at those Welland Jackfish of the IBL; they're getting 5,000 a game. It's amazing, and they've got crazy promotions, you know, and it's very much kind of like the senior AAA hockey. It's kind of a senior AAA baseball with a lot of young guys as well too. But they're out there playing because, you know, maybe the young guys want to make it to the next level, but also it really is for the love of the game. And there's something to be said about that. It is,
I mean, I never played hardball in my life. I grew up in Linden. It's a small town. We only played fastball out there, so I never played hardball. But when you see it and you appreciate it, but you can do it in the summertime. And the world's changed. If you and I want to go, I don't know if you ever have a beer with me, but you know, if we want to go to a game and grab a box of peanuts and have a beer in a summer night and watch a good ball game, what a wonderful opportunity.
Yep.
Hockey's a little different. You kind of got to go through a snowstorm sometimes to get there. You got to brave a little of the cold to go sit in a cold rink. It's a little tougher sell, but good for them and people like the Cardinals and everybody else that are doing it. Well, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I'm going to keep you to that. You, me, Radley, Zamford, whatever. Go out and watch a Cardinals game in the summer.
All right, we will. Great.
Hey, folks, this has been a wonderful chat. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thanks,
Don.
Bubba.
Congratulations and continued success.
Thank you.
Right on. Hey, folks, as we said, if sports with a Southern Ontario twist is your thing, the Sportsline Podcast wants to hear from you. Contact us at many of the CHCH's social media platforms. Please subscribe to the Sportsline Podcast, TikTok, YouTube, and I'll encourage you to leave a comment. Hit that thumbs up or 5-star button so you always do get the latest and the greatest. For the amazing hands and minds that make this production possible, thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week.